So I'm going to open these two scans. These are the scans of the same part, but made from a different angle. So it's the same part, just sitting differently on this table. And in this case, I'm going to do something different. So I'm going to select these two scans. They are completely misaligned. I'm going to switch off priority mode. So you can see that these are just two misaligned point clouds, raw point clouds, because we didn't do any cleaning here or anything. These are two scans with Live3D, which are good enough as they are. And I'm going to just press this button over here, start non-textured. I'm going to the settings before these. Well, let's say I'll leave the same parameters, 0.7, radius filling like 5 millimeters, sharpness in the middle, and everything else is switched off. Preliminary cleaning is activated, sure. Okay, and I'm just clicking this button. I'm not right-clicking it or anything. I just left-click on it once. And I have two scans selected, and I'm using start non-textured. It means that registration and finalization will be done to these two scans separately. So it will do registration first over here, registration for this scan, then finalize this scan and finalize this scan. And they will look pretty much like this first one, where we have the name of the scan, frames, and the result. And the same will be here, name, frame, results, name, frame, results. But we're finalizing the entire point cloud at this point. We're not making any priority markup selection. And I'm going to show you how to deal with this situation later on. So as you can see, as a result, we have two scans where the entire point clouds are finalized. So here you can see not only the part is finalized, but also the table, which is not really what we need, but I just click on this button and it just do registration and finalization again. Usually between registration and finalization, we do priority markup, priority selection to say nest what we wanted finalized, but we didn't do it this time. Still, you can do this later on when you already have the results. So if I just click priority mode, I still can select, let's say, this part over here. And in the same way, mark it as object. But it will be done slightly differently. So you can see that the process starts to go on. So what is going on? Well, this table is now polygonal model. So if I switch to wireframe view, I can see that these are also polygons. And now Calibry Nest has to calculate backwards. It analyzes the surface and tries to understand which points of the point cloud were used to make the surface, and then mark these points on the point cloud as irrelevant. So it's like a double job. So it has to, you have to first finalize the entire point cloud, and then you have to calculate which points are not needed. So this is why it's not really optimal, but still possible. And you can see that these are probably points belonging to the table actually. So it's not always like super precise. So it's another reason to do priority markup between registration and finalization. So I can select these two areas and mark them as irrelevant if I like. Okay, in the same way you can do the same thing with this part, but let's say I'm going to select needless areas. So this is all that we don't need. And instead of saying that this is an object, I'm going to say this is the support geometry. So if I click on it, it just tries to calculate which points were used from the point cloud to make this surface and mark them as needless. So it's pretty much the same, but it just takes longer. So it is always better to do registration than do priority markup and then finalize. But it's also possible to register, finalize, and then click priority, make a priority selection. But this is not optimal. Plus, as you can see, there are some points over there which are still important. So why is this? And because these points were not used to build the surface, and therefore Nest just doesn't do anything with them. I can of course just select them if I like. I can just go select them like this and mark them as support geometry, but I'm not going to do this for every point. Probably they will be these points will create little bubbles that we then can filter out, so I'll leave them as they are. Okay, so now what you see, we have this scan where we have this important part, and this scan where we have this important part selected, but we still have this table. We can leave it like that, but I just want to point out that if you select these two scans right now and finalize them once again with the priority mode switched on, what you're going to see is clean results. So if at the first time we finalized everything, well, then we marked what is important and what is not. So after this, the finalization will give you this clean result one more time. And the same goes with this skin. So we already have the priority markup here. So this is our important part, although we have a certain amount of noise that is still marked as important here. But you will see that if you finalize this, you can see that we have those little snippets flying around. We can filter them out really easily. Okay, let's finish this, and I'll do the same thing over here, I think, just so that we have clean results with which we're going to proceed with assembling the model. Okay, so you can see these two scans now have two results. One that we did before priority selection, and the other one that we did after priority selection, and the same thing here. So we now can just delete these two results. We don't need them anymore. I can delete them. And what we ended up with is these three scans. You can see this one, by the way, have quite a lot of noise around it because of this small points. I can easily filter them out, saying leave the biggest part, and they all will disappear. This one is pretty much clean. There are some flying parts there inside. Let me filter them out too. Okay, and we have our first part, which I can also clean if I like. Leave the biggest part. Yeah. So now we have three scans which are registered and finalized. So we have our three parts. So if I select all three of them, you can see that they are completely misaligned, and we have to do something about it before we move on.